If you ever scrolled through a real estate app like Zillow or Redfin, you've probably seen it. Price per square foot. It's the most common metric in the industry used by everyone from first time buyers to high end investors to judge whether a home is a good deal or not. At first glance, the math is refreshingly simple. You take the price of the home and divide it by the total square footage, and boom, you have a single number that you can use to compare against every other house on the block or even within a zip code. But while the calculation is easy, relying on it too heavily is one of the fastest ways to misprice a home or miss out on a great property. And here is why that simple number is often lying to you and how you should actually be looking at the value of a home. Hi, I'm Steve Moon, your San Jose realtor. Welcome to my channel where we talk about real estate and things that are related to Silicon Valley. Let's look at a similar area effect. I had a 2 bedroom, 2 bath condo that sold, and at the same time, a few blocks away, there was another 2 condo built in the same year with the similar amenities within the community and the same number of parking spots. My unit was 4 square foot smaller than the other one, so on paper, they were pretty much identical. Mine sold for 905,000 and the other unit sold for 830,000 a few weeks later. So on paper they were almost identical. If a buyer were looking on Zillow or one of the other portals and their algorithm generated pricing model, they both should have sold pretty much for the same amount of price. But obviously there was a $75,000 price difference. So how do you explain that difference? The biggest flaw in this metric is that it only measures interior volume. It treats every square footage as if it has the exact same value, which we know isn't true. It completely ignores the invisible value drivers that truly move the needle for the buyers. My unit was more recently updated with more modern cabinetry and newer lightings and newer flooring. The other unit was updated with less upgrades and had older carpets and older appliances. One was a to do project, while the other one was more move in ready. With my example, my listing was a penthouse unit overlooking the beautiful garden area, whereas the other unit was on a lower level in the community with not much of a view. The square footage was almost identical, but the view factor was night and day, and that final price tag reflected that reality, which could not be tangibly calculated in the final sale price if you only looked at it just from a size perspective. Because my listing was a penthouse unit, it also had an 18-foot ceiling and a fireplace, whereas the other unit had the standard 9-foot ceiling with no fireplace. However, on paper, that unit was 4 feet larger and therefore more desirable. But there was no allowances for or the ability to calculate the value of that hidden desirable feature that made one get $75,000 more than for the same space. The biggest flaw in this formula is not assigning value for the lot for single family homes. No additional value is attributed to lot size, which is the most important factor in Bay Area real estate today. Because we are building less and less homes with larger lots, the true value in a home in the future is tied into the value of that land. And you don't have to know anything about real estate to understand that a 10,000 square foot lot is much more valuable than a 5,000 square foot one. Yet, there is no exact way to incorporate that lot premium into the square foot calculus. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe buttons. If real estate worked like a calculator, life would be so simple for all involved parties. But besides the factor that we just mentioned, there are two additional factors that math alone can't seem to solve. Buyers have a psychological price ceiling. If doing the math pushes a smaller home into the price range where a much larger but an older homes are available, a buyer will almost always choose the bigger house. You have to ask, so why would somebody buy a 2 bedroom condo when they can get a 3 bedroom townhome for just about the same price or maybe even just a little bit more. Buyers' choices right now are vast, and this factor cannot be ignored as we move forward. Generally, as a house gets larger, the price per square foot actually tends to drop above a certain point. Think of it sort of like buying in bulk at Costco. Depending on the type of property, the first 1,000 or 1,500 square feet are the most expensive because they include the high cost rooms like kitchens and two bathrooms. Adding extra bedroom or bathrooms or closet space is considered cheaper square footage, so it doesn't increase the total value at the same flat rate. It's sort of an inverted U curve. Comparing two homes solely on size is sort of like saying a base model Toyota SUV is worth the same money as a top of the line Lexus SUV because they both have five doors, two rows of seating, and have the same square foot of cargo space. What is not mentioned is that the Toyota is 10 years old with worn out leather seats and 100,000 miles, while the Lexus is a limited production model that is only 1 year old with much less miles, obviously, and 4 years left on the factory warranty. It's the details and not the measurements which determine the true value difference between the two. All of the bells and the whistles which create the value are ignored if you only look at the price per square foot. Is price per square foot useless? No, not at all. It's a great way to get a ballpark sense of a neighborhood's overall health. If every home in an area is selling for 900 square foot and you see one that's listed for 1100, you need to look much closer to see if that premium is justified by world class renovations or something else that justifies that kind of added value. And as a situation with my listing, if you were to compare the same penthouse model with similar upgrades, with similar views, and the same building, then the price per square feet would be the most appropriate way to determine value in that situation. In most cases, however, determining the true market value of a home is a delicate balancing act. It requires an expert eye to add and subtract values based on factors a computer algorithm simply can't see. If you rely solely on those automated estimates or a quick division trick, then you're likely leaving money on the table as a seller or overpaying for a house that doesn't actually earn its keep. You will essentially be comparing apples to oranges. Real estate value is ultimately about the quality of the space, not just the quantity. And most of all, it is what a buyer is willing to pay today in the marketplace, not yesterday or tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.